Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here tonight with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, all things considered.
That was a pretty. The Oilers lost 4-3 in overtime,
Yeah,
and the overtime goal was a complete downer cow. We'll
yeah,
get to that. But that was a pretty exciting game. I
it
really
was.
enjoyed that game. It was up and down. You know, the Oilers kept battling back. The Vegas Knights took the lead three times through the game, and the Oilers battled back each time. And in the end, they couldn't battle back in overtime because they sudden death. So the grade A shots, the Oilers were actually the better team for grade A shots. Bruce, they had 16-13 for the Vegas Golden Knights. And the subset of 5 alarm shots, which are even more dangerous, were 8-6 for the Oilers. So the difference, to some extent, was goaltending, just a little bit, but it's close enough where. And both goalies actually let in weak shots in this game. But the real difference was one play in overtime that the Oilers were really fell apart on. Okay, our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. Bruce McCurdy, what is your good thing?
Yeah, I'm going to go with not specifically how it was scored, the tying goal, but just the fact that it was scored. 3 games in a row, the Oilers trailed by a goal more than halfway through the third period. And out of those 3 games, they managed to net a total of 5 standing points by each time finding a way to tie it up in the last half of the third and not finding a way to give one up back up. So each time they outscored the other team 1-0 down the stretch when they were down a goal and trying to catch up. It was Matthias Ekholm, of course, was the hero on the big slapper in the San Jose game at 16-13 of the third, under 4 minutes left. Then against the Arizona Coyotes, it was Ryan Nugent Hopkins who scored at home from McDavid and Draisaitl. It was Nugent Hopkins who scored from Draisaitl and Nurse. And tonight it was Warren Fogle who scored from Nurse and Yamamoto at 11:19 of the third. So getting deep enough into the game that you think, we've seen enough of these games where uh, there's time on the clock and then it just kind of melts away and they just never, next thing you know, the goalie's out and it's either a 2-goal loss or they just can't ever get that equalizer, and they got that equalizer deep into the third period in 3 games in a row. And this one was, I think, a little bit of a gift from goalie Laurent Brossoit, who otherwise had a pretty good game. That this outside shot by Fogle got through him. You must have scored at a B shot, did you?
I did, Bruce.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't got quite caught up to that point
Yeah.
yet, but I mean, there was some kind of tipping going on, or there was some kind of distraction on the play, but I'd have to go back and analyze in some detail. But it looked kind of like a goalie mistake. But guess what? We'll take it. Our goalies have made mistakes too, and it's nice to get that tying goal when you really need it. Like I say, 5 standing points this week from losing positions with 10 minutes to play in the third period is a pretty good outcome, even as many of us are sour about the one that got away against first place and receding now Vegas Golden Knights.
It was a fantastic goal by the Oilers. And what I liked about it, and so I was concentrating on something else as you were going through your description of it. Just finishing up my game grades, which I've
Mm-hmm.
already posted. Did you mention how Darnell Nurse hustled in there and popped that puck? Because that was really a key play to that goal. And I love,
I didn't,
Nurse
so thanks for that.
often gets criticized
Mm-hmm.
for joining the attack too much. And I think he is a little bit can be over keen joining the attack. But I gave him a 7 this game. It could have easily been an 8. I thought he was really strong all game, really active. He kept the clean sheet at even strength, not one major mistake on a grade A shot against. And in this play, when the Oilers needed a goal, this is the moment when you do rush in there, when you do
Mm-hmm.
try to affect the game in that way. And he did. He got in there, he pops that puck, and it goes right to Fogle. Pops the puck off a Vegas player, and it goes right to Fogle and in the net. And yeah, I was very relieved to see the Vegas goalie make a mistake in this game. It's Laurent Brossoit is not a there are no perfect goalies, and with the Oilers, he was often plagued by that kind of goal against, the iffy goal against, and that was one of them. There might have been something else going on. There often is a little bit of something else going on an outside shot that goes in, but he should have had it. Goalie should have those shots, generally speaking, and it's a huge bummer to the team, especially in a game like that when they don't have it. So I'll be getting to that a little bit later. Bruce, my good thing is the play of Leon Draisaitl, and he was fantastic tonight. His line was fantastic, I thought. With who was he out there with? Hyman and Nuge.
Yeah.
So they
Two
did. The
pretty
Oilers
good
got down.
wingers.
He did. The Oilers got down a goal, and but not for long in the first period. Vegas scores a minute into it, but 3.5 minutes into it, the Oilers score, and it's 3 great plays in a row by Leon Draisaitl that drive this goal forward. First, he's on the back check. He knocks the puck out of the air, and this is a tactic that Leon often goes for. And you and I have a little bit of fun with this because I get on Leon for his what I call matador defense, where he kind of swipes at players as they're going by him. And you point out every time that he successfully executes knocking down the pass, which he'll often try to do. He is very good at it. Like I can see why he tries to do this often, because he's as good as anyone at batting the puck out of the air. And in this play, it led to a goal for. So I think it's a high risk play. The way he plays defense, sometimes it pays off, and it sure did.
That's fair.
So first he bats it out of the air, then he takes it in, and with his tremendous strength, agility, and skill, he protects that puck, uses his body to gain position on a Vegas defender, hold off the Vegas defender, and put the puck to Nugent Hopkins. Nugent Hopkins then goes down the wing into the corner, puts it back to Draisaitl in the slot, and Leon, again, with sublime skill, just slides that puck over to Zach Hyman, who makes a really nice shot. I think he actually tipped the puck where he did, maybe on purpose, because if he had tipped it back towards the goalie, it doesn't go in, but he kind of tips it, and it looks like an awkward tip, but it does find the corner of the net. So I think that might have been on purpose from Hyman, but it was just from Leon on that play. It was just everything that makes him a great player. His reading of the game leads to the picked off pass. His strength on his skates leads to him making the initial pass to Nugent Hopkins, and then his incredible skill leads to the goal for. And we are just blessed to have a player like him on the Edmonton Oilers, and I maybe don't make that point enough. He and McDavid led the team. They were both in on 9 major contributions to 9 grade A shots each. So the Oilers was that 16, and the 2 big guys were in on most of them, 5 of those each on the power play.
Right.
One of them was on, I think, one of the maybe the prettiest non-scoring play that I've seen this year, maybe I've seen in years. This was on the power play, and in quick succession, there was 3 cross-seam passes. First, McDavid whips it over to Draisaitl. Then Draisaitl whips it back to the other side over to Nugent Hopkins. Then Nugent Hopkins whips it back to Draisaitl, and he unleashes his executioner shots, and he gets all of it. He hammers that at the net, and it is going in, except Braden McNabb plays goalie, gets a little bit lucky there, and stops the shot. It
shaft of his stick, yeah.
Yes. What a shot. What a
that
play.
Was going in the net for sure.
Yeah, what a play.
And the puck was on a string.
Yeah.
That whole first power, I mean, they scored on the second power play on a beauty goal by Leon. The whole first one, though, was Oilers in control and creating stuff, and they just couldn't quite finish the play. A couple times they didn't get the bounce, and but they were in command of the puck. I mean, I remember there was one sequence where it looked like Vegas was going to clear, and McDavid had to stretch full out to beat the Vegas guy to the puck, chip it to Bouchard about 8 feet away, and he had like no room or time to do anything with it. And he was able to somehow play it over to Leon, and Leon did a one-touch behind the back to McDavid, who'd come around behind everybody, and now he's cutting in on goal, and the puck's gone Harlem Globetrotters style basically through the whole Oilers power play in about 2 seconds. So that was pretty fun and a great chance. That was the one McDavid set up Hyman at the side of the net, and Brossoit robbed him. There was like 4 great plays in rapid succession there.
Yeah. I thought actually Bouchard looked a lot better on the power play than he had looked. I thought he looked nervous, I think, the previous game. But this time, all his passes were right on the tape, right in sync with the player's movement that he was passing to. He really, maybe that he was just focusing on that, working on that. But, the key is not just on the tape, but as the player's going forward, you don't want to stop his momentum at all. You want him to just, it's got to be absolutely perfect, the service that you provide. And I thought he was really good running the power play in the chances they had. Now, the second Leon Draisaitl, the power play goal that they scored was again just a unique bit of skill from Leon Draisaitl, executing a play that very few other NHL players, I think Nathan MacKinnon scored a goal on the Oilers this way, but very few other NHL players can execute, and it's the turnaround wrist shot from the high post. So McDavid gets the puck, and Draisaitl's in the slot, kind of in the high slot, mid slot. He takes the puck on his backhand, so there's nothing the defender can do about it. He's just getting that puck on his backhand. Immediately puts it on his forehand and slams it home with a fantastic shot. Again, like it's just like unreal skill from Leon Draisaitl on that play. Very few players can do that in the NHL right now. One other play, there's a couple other plays that I want to talk about. Braden McNabb cross-checked McDavid in the back. A nasty little play, not penalized.
Right.
Should have been penalized.
Right.
And Leon got a pound of flesh on that one, though. He absolutely hammered McNabb into the boards. And I love that retribution. I love that play. And Leon, he's known for that. Like he's if you're looking for someone to punish someone who's actually done something bad, we often want the Oilers would bring in players like Cassian and such, and we'd hope that they would actually do that. But very rarely did they actually ever hit or go after they'd fight somebody. But to actually see the player who's done a dirty play get slammed into the boards like that is good for my heart, Bruce. I was very pleased by that. Right at the end of the game, there was another really nice play by Draisaitl. The Vegas, in the last seconds of the game, tried to center the puck, and Leon was right there to cut it off. And that was a very dangerous moment.
It was, with like 3 seconds left or 5 seconds left.
Yeah. So 12 face-off wins on 12 out of 19. So I gave Leon, he was partly to blame, I thought, on the one goal against. He didn't
3-2.
Yeah, the 3-2.
Pass went right through.
That's right. Yeah. So I docked him a grade for that, but I gave him a grade of 8 out of 10. He had a great game. Bruce, your bad thing.
Yeah. Got to single in on the game-losing goal against in overtime, and it was one of those overtime periods where the Oilers started with their usual big three of McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nurse in overtime, and not a whole lot happened during their shift. But what they showed that was different than usual was discipline to get off the ice early. After 40 or so seconds, let's see what it was. Yeah, 39 seconds, Leon got off the ice in overtime. Imagine. And you're thinking, okay, well, let's keep the lines rolling in overtime, and the boys will get another chance. Well, they didn't get another chance because the second line never got off the ice. The second line which consisted of Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Evander Kane, and Matthias Ekholm, were out there for 1 minute and 47 seconds, and including the game-winning goal for Vegas, or as I refer to it, the game-losing goal against from an Edmonton perspective. And Vegas played it smart. There was a little bit of back and forth in the first part of the shift, and then Vegas gained control after a missed shot by the Oilers, and they took it out to the neutral zone. Then they did their changes in the neutral zone, and not one of the Oilers was able to make it over to the Oilers bench, which of course in overtime it's a long change. And, for even one guy to get to the bench and be replaced, it's going to take a few seconds. Well, that's going to be an odd man rush. And Vegas managed that very well. And then they got the puck in Edmonton's territory, and there it remained. And the Oilers guys clearly were getting more and more gassed as the shift went along. And the fact that they were gassed and, the lactic acid was taken over where the brain used to be, I think, at a certain point, because it wasn't just the body couldn't react. The decisions became very questionable indeed. And so let's say part of that was just because of the circumstances. Vegas played it smart, and they got Jack Eichel fresh out against those guys. But ultimately, the huge mistake, they were just trying to do sort of loose one-on-one coverage in their own zone, as you see NHL teams do in overtime. It's not like a structure like a 3-on-5 penalty kill where, the defenseman is back and the forward is up. All three players can be anywhere in the zone. I mean, the other night we saw Darnell Nurse with a clean-cut breakaway, right, in overtime. And in this particular play, Ekholm went out high. I think probably Eichel was his man, but the danger man turned out to be Evander Kane's man, Nicholas Roy. He's
Good
Roy,
player.
right? Not
Yeah.
Roy. He's Roy.
Yeah.
And he wound up behind Kane and in front of the net, and Kane tried to go over and help Nuge defend the pass out of the corner. Well, they both got beat out of the pass in the corner. Now you got Nicholas Roy in front of Stuart Skinner one-on-one. And Skinner makes the first save as Kane is cruising back towards his man. And then Kane decides to turn off and go behind the net. And the puck is right in the blue paint, and the guy's jamming away at it, and the second chance he jams it in. And I was just beside myself. I thought, what are you thinking? Like, why would you turn away from that puck? That's your man. The game is on the line. First place potentially here is on the line. And you're cruising behind the net, watching the guy whack it in. Terrible. And, that's...
Ekholm did the same thing, Bruce. Ekholm, like, it's not... He was late to the play, but he had a chance before he skated by Roy. Is it Roy? We're both confused by this. He skated by Roy too. I noticed. Like, it was weird. Like, both of them. Why do you do that? Like, Kane's first mistake was bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you get sucked over there? Like, be aware. And I understand. Like, I think your point is well taken. These guys are exhausted. They're not thinking straight anymore. They're just done. Like, their brains are glitching, and that would also explain why they don't take out Nicholas Roy in front of the net, because their brains are glitching and they're just thinking, oh, he's going to score anyway. They've given up essentially. They're not thinking straight, because normally you'd skate right at that guy and blow him over. And Evander Kane's not a shy player. Neither is Matthias Ekholm, but they both, I thought, had a chance to theoretically take out Roy in front of the net, and they both skated by him. Kane going behind the net and Ekholm going on the wrong side of him. It was weird, but weird things happen when you're really, really, really tired, and that's what they were, obviously, in that play.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. I mean, it's still hard to explain. At a certain point, instinct should take you to the place where you need to be, but that didn't happen. So, and minute and 47-second shift for a line other than your big guys is generally not going to have a happy ending, and this one didn't.
Yeah.
And really, a shift that long isn't going to have a happy ending, whether it's your big guys or not, to be,
Yeah.
perfectly frank. But
Yeah.
man,
Instead of instinct, they got big stink. All right.
mhm.
Bruce, my bad thing is was Stuart Skinner's play. And I didn't like either of the first two goals, and I know that we don't necessarily agree on the first one. I have gone back and watched it again, and sometimes on a 2-on-1 or often on a 2-on-1, we'll consider it a grade A shot, but this is a different kind of 2-on-1 in that it is a 2-on-1. Bouchard's made a bat. Nugent Hopkins has lost the puck in the corner. Bouchard has wandered up the ice. He's asleep and he's wandered up the ice and someone sneaks in behind him. And so it's a 2-on-1. But the initial pass on the 2-on-1 takes that player essentially out of the play. He makes it just as he crosses the blue line and he puts it over to Eichel, who is at the very top at that point, very top of the faceoff circle. So Skinner, I just felt he had time to move over at that point and get set and make the save. And what he does is he moves over too far. He loses his net on it. And Eichel, when he gets the puck, he's at the top of the faceoff circle. He moves down, and by the time he shoots it, he's just below the dot. So there is a fair amount of time there by NHL standards I thought, for the goalie to react. And the other reason I blamed Skinner is that Eichel doesn't put it in off the post or
It's well inside the post. So.
He puts it right through Skinner, and it just all of that added up to me thinking you got to make that save. You've got to make that save. And I just felt he didn't. So I'll let, before I talk about the second goal, what were your thoughts on it?
Well, my take on it was that he never was really set, and that the 2-on-1 pass went from one circle to the other, and he had to come all the way over. And when Eichel took the pass, it's not like he shot it from the arrival point, but he kind of drifted further away from the angle. From, as you say, top of the circle to basically right on the face-off dot itself. So it's sort of the near corner of home plate. But it was still a 2-on-1, and it was still a very high-end NHL shooter getting a clear shot against a goalie who's trying to keep up with the movement of the puck. So to me, it was a marginal grade A shot. Sure, you'd like a save, and he didn't get the save, and that was the first shot on net in the entire game. And then I think it was 7 minutes into the first period, the shots were 1-1, and the score was 1-1. You see that every night. And the goalies did get better. I mean, after that, Skinner made 31 saves in the end because LV really brought it hard in the third period, especially.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with anything you said. I do, but I would say that the pass was a little bit early in the whole sequence, and so Anyway, the second goal I didn't like either. Just trying to think about what that one. That was a high slot shot, as I recall.
Yeah, Doro.
That's Doro. Yeah, Doro. So Kessel charges up. It was a good shot. Kessel charges into the zone, and Ryan might have done well to slow him down a little bit, but because everyone backs off when a player comes at you that hard. So I think the defense are backing off a bit. Everyone's backing off a bit. Leon's out there; he's backing off a bit. The puck comes, and Leon's battling someone else for the puck, and there's just a kind of a bad bounce. But again, it goes in the pretty high, far out there to the shooter Dorofayev, and he puts in an outside shot. That one was more off the bar, but again, it was from far enough out, and it looked to me like Skinner had a clear look at it. You expect an NHL goalie to make that save. That kind of shot is it's a hell of a shot, but I think it's like a 10% shot. Most goalies will make that save. They're going to make that save like on a league average almost percentage basis. So I didn't like him on that one, and that's 2 goals. And even though Skinner did come back and he did play well the rest of the game and wasn't to blame on the other goals at all. And he made some really big saves as things went along. 2 iffy goals in a game. I was just listening to Ken Dryden, his new book on Team Canada 72. I listened to it on Audible. It's just 2 hours long. It's almost a ripoff getting a book that's only 2 hours long. But I'm such a 1972 nut that I wanted to hear what he had to say, and I loved the book. And the point he made about goaltending, and I think he's made this before, is it's not like the goalie has to stop every shot, but the goalie has to be good enough. The goalie, he's just got to be good enough for his team to win. And in this game, Stuart Skinner wasn't good enough for his team to win. And that was essentially the difference in his game, because he let in 2 iffy goals and the Vegas goalie let in just 1.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, the second one, I mean, that's the great B shot all the way, because he was well above home plate where he let it go. And it was a good shot. And sometimes good scorers score on good shots from grade B locations. And this was one of those where he just got beat by I don't think he had any kind of book on the guy. And I think he got surprised. Dude's only played like 10 games in the league, and he's already got 5 goals. And they showed all 5, and it wasn't like they were all snipes, but this one was. And
he's their Clean Costin. Yeah. He's off to he really is like
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he scored a bit more in the minor leagues actually last year, but he wasn't exactly ripping it up in the minor leagues this year. Hey, Bruce, I just have one quick aside.
Mm-hmm.
The Vegas Golden Knights have a player called Mike Amodio on the team.
Mm-hmm.
This is, it was like, I was just wondering, like, is there an immortal Mike Amodio who always plays in the NHL or plays in pro hockey? This is the 3rd Mike Amodio who's played pro hockey.
Really?
And it's such an...
It's not the same one, and he's 60 years old. It's 3 different ones.
3 different guys.
Related?
There was a Mike Amodio who played in the WHA in the 70s.
Okay.
He played for I have his hockey card. That's his.
Okay,
he played for the Toronto Toros, the Ottawa Nationals. He played only 19 games in the NHL ever for the Winnipeg Jets in 1979-80. That Mike Amodio. Then there was another one who came after that who just played in the minor leagues in the AHL.
Okay.
Now it's a slightly different spelling of the name. So if this is like this is straight out of the Kolchak, the Night Stalker, and this is some kind of immortal Mike Amodio who's
Gotcha.
who keeps morphing into a younger individual somehow.
Mm-hmm.
He's tried to fool us this time by slightly changing the spelling of his name, but we're onto him. We know that he's doing something.
Amadio, this guy.
Keep his universal hockey career, his forever hockey career going. Watch it. There'll be another Mike Amodio in 20 years in the NHL, Bruce. All right. Your number.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll do it this way. I'm going to go with 41, 23, and 9, which is Edmonton's record now after 73 games. That's pretty good. 41 wins, 23 losses. Even if you call all the overtime losses, I mean, they're still way over 50%. I mean, they've won half their season's games, and they still got 9 to play. Presumably they're going to win some of them. Yeah. Not a bad record, considering they were struggling to sort of stay over 50% win rate deep into the season. And now all of a sudden, they're up pushing way higher than that with 41 out of 73. I mean, that's getting closer to 60%. And they... so good on them for getting into the race. But the fact that they took 1 point tonight and Vegas took 2, that's a huge blow. Edmonton had to win this game. Ideally, you want to win it in regulation. They come into this game, the home game, against the Golden Knights, down by 6. And the clock's, the season's ticking down, 10 games left. And there was still a path to the division crown, but honestly, at this moment, I don't think there is anymore. I think 7 points down with 9 to play, and scheduling the way that it is, and I think also Woody talking about the games being all dress rehearsals for the playoffs. They're not going to knock themselves out trying to get to first place in their division, and they've got home and aways. If they have four different division teams with home and aways that started tonight, because they'll play Vegas again there. They have home and away against the Kings, which are huge games potentially for second place in the division. And then they have home and aways with each of the Ducks and Sharks, who are home and cooled out down in the lower dregs of the division. And then just 2 road games against Central Division teams: Arizona, which is their next game on Monday, and then Colorado very late in the season. So it's kind of a mixture of schedules, but the Western teams, the Oilers, you would have thought with the big run that they've been on, they would have made serious inroads in the standings. And yet over the same time that they were going 8-2-0, Vegas was going 8-2-0, and Los Angeles was going 8-0-2. So they actually lost ground to the Kings over this time where they won 5 in a row, 8 out of 10, and everything, going good, and they just couldn't gain any ground. All 3 of those teams made up massive ground against Seattle, who went 5-4-1 over 10 games, and they lost like 5 to 7 points to each of their 3 main rivals that are now above them in the standings. Fortunately, they didn't lose any ground to Calgary or the teams underneath them. So what the Oilers have done a little bit is separated from the wild card contenders and now are very comfortably in a playoff spot. But they have not been able. I thought they could make a run at the division title, and if you told me they're going to go 8-2 with 10 games to go, that I thought they'd be right in there. But they were sort of just within striking distance, and everything had to go right, starting with that win tonight that they didn't get. And I just don't see how you're going to make up 7 points in just 9 remaining games. So I think we're looking at a second or third place finish in the Pacific Division. And,
well, Seattle could still catch them because they're just
they could be knocked down too.
So the Oilers could be in a wild card spot, which in some ways might be preferable than facing the LA Kings, because the LA Kings are such a physical team. Now, if the Oilers are in a wild card spot, they would either face, well, it's still not known who's going to win. It could be Minnesota, it could be Dallas, it could be the Avs. So there's no easy outs, obviously.
No, basically all the Western teams are hot.
Yeah, even Winnipeg, Winnipeg. You might want to play Winnipeg, but the Oilers, Josh Morrissey, he's kryptonite for McDavid. Like, there's a certain defenseman who are fast enough and skilled enough to shut down Connor McDavid, and Josh Morrissey is one of them. So there's not many. There's only 3 or 4 or 5 of them. The Avs have 2 in Devon Taves and Cale Makar. And so in some ways the Kings defense is less able to handle McDavid, I think, than Drew Doughty in his prime. But Drew Doughty now, I mean, depends how much fouling they're going to let him get away with, frankly, in terms of his handling of McDavid. Because if it's just based on speed and skating, like, McDavid is going to get the best of Doughty often, I think. But they're going to let Doughty get away with murder. I fear this is my real fear about LA, is they're going to go into LA and just get mugged, mauled, and because we've seen this before, and see if that plays out this time.
Mikey Anderson try and take Leon Draisaitl right out of the series last year with no repercussions from the league.
I wonder if Leon's going to exact some revenge.
I wouldn't put it past him, but he'll pick his spot. But I wouldn't put it past him. I wouldn't put it the spot might be in one of these 2 remaining regular season games.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
that's. I mean, you can be sure markers will be put down. One thing about tonight's game is there was very definitely markers being put down, because that was a rugged game that had some real nastiness in it that reminded me of a little bit of playoff hockey. And these 2 teams have started to build a rivalry over the years, and as the playoffs are shaping up, they both want to establish their territory. Let's put it that way. And Vegas came away with the first of the end games. I mean, the Oilers won the first 2. All 3 games were 4-3. I mean, there's not much to choose between these 2 clubs, and it's actually the Kings that scare me the most.
I think they do too, for me as well, and they've got lots of really good players. And all right, Bruce.
From last year, they got Doughty, they got Arvidsson back that missed the series last year. They've got Kevin Fiala, Then they went out and they got the goalie and the defenseman at the trade deadline, Gavrikov and Korpisalo. Uh, and they already had a solid up and coming bunch of players that's going to be better this year than they were last year. That's going to be a real tough out.
Yeah. The Oilers have a healthy Nurse, and they have
Mm-hmm.
Ekholm
Yep.
taking the place of
Yes.
Keith. So I actually think the Oilers, I mean, Draisaitl was healthy till game 6, but he wasn't really healthy, I don't think, against the Kings ever. Like I think he was slowed down by something even before the more major injury. So they got a Leon Draisaitl who may be raising his game. I mean, listen, in the last month, the game that Leon Draisaitl has been playing, it's been consistently excellent. He is flying out there and leading his own line, and I just find that super encouraging. Bruce, it's when they picked up Ekholm and it's when Leon started to play this well that I started to predict the Oilers would win the Stanley Cup. Those two things just give me a ton of hope for this team. All right, to my number, we could go with 105. That's how long the shift was for Kane and Nugent Hopkins, but it's a really long shift. Mine, it's like you're not playing beer league, guys. Anyway, fair enough. Maybe they didn't get a chance to go off. I thought there was maybe a chance where if they were focused on getting off, like if it was top of mind, there was a moment where at least one of them could have changed off. I thought at one point but it's very risky to do so. And probably they didn't have a great opportunity, but that was one heck of a long shift. And that was it's why they made such a bad play in the end, I think. My number, Bruce, the Oilers are now have moved into fallen into second place all-time power play. They were 1-2, 1 out of 2 tonight on the power play. But so the 77-78 Montreal Canadiens were clipped along at 31.9%. These Oilers are at 31.6%. So they still have an opportunity. And considering some of their opponents, maybe they'll be able to crank it up. Man, the power play looked good, especially that first power play. They were throwing the puck around so unbelievably well. It is a well-oiled machine. So, Bruce, when you look at the top 10 all-time for power plays, there's 3 teams that stand out. There's these Oilers who have 2 of the top 10 all-time, the second and the 5th best power plays all-time. And then there's the New York Islanders of the late 70s and early 80s. And of the top 10, they have 3. Excuse me. Yeah, 3 of the top 10. And if I had to say, I think the Oilers, when you really look at who the Oilers are challenging for the best power play of all time, I don't think it's the Canadians. I think it's those Islanders. If you look at the run of power play excellence they had over, I think it's like 7 or 8 years, it's just unreal. The consistency of that power play with Potvin, Bossy, Trottier, and Stefan Pearson, and probably Clark Gillies in front of the net, or Nystrom. And then it's the Canadians who have 2 of those, 2 in the top 10, number 1 and number 8. The Islanders have the 3rd, 4th, and 6th. Wow. So.
Well, one of the things that makes for a great power play, and we have this going for us here in Edmonton, is consistency of personnel. And you find a power play with the main guys that played together 3, 4, 5 or more years. They just age like fine wine as a power play unit, and they develop the understanding of who's going to go where and do what, and they can do things without looking, and they get more and more options open we've seen the Oilers power play open kind of a whole new set of options this year with some of the things that Nugent Hopkins has been doing on the power play, moving into the middle more, and a threat to either shoot from the slot or make that late pass over to Draisaitl for the slam. And it's a hell of a problem for a team to stop them. Some nights the refs stop them, of course. Tonight they got 2 whole power plays. And there's a lot of nights where you got 1 or 2 power plays, but they got to earn their chances. They got to make them count. Really, tonight 1 out of 2 with the second power play being great. It's hard. You can't complain at all about that. You can just whine about the refs a little bit, which we often look after that detail here at the Code of Hockey.
That's our specialty. We're good at that. Yeah, we like to play to our strengths, and that's one of them.
Mhm. Yeah, I have to admit I was a little not happy when Ekholm took his holding, which was a holding penalty in the third period. But after seeing Bukestad get run from behind into the
Yeah,
boards by Eichel, and there was one other net.
nab on
Oh, that
McDavid.
was when McDavid got hammered in the cross check by McDavid. And both of those were fair play apparently. So, but anyway, those are the power play itself is wicked good. And so is that one from New York. You know that New York Islanders power play in 1980 Stanley Cup Finals when they beat Pat Quinn's first place Philadelphia Flyers. New York in the 6 games scored 16 power play goals.
And I remember that.
It's still a record, I'm certain of, probably for any series, not just Stanley Cup Finals. 16 power play goals in 6 games. Wow.
Yeah. I remember when the Oilers of that era, who also had a really good power play, they had actually won. They were seventh. One of their power plays was seventh out of the top 10 of those 80s teams.
Mm-hmm.
But when the Oilers played that Islanders team, it was terrible when the Oilers took a penalty because those guys, especially Persson and Potvin at the point, they were just so machine-like in their efficiency, hammering hard wrist shots and slap shots on net. It was brutal. Then you have Mike Bossy lurking around. I mean, what could be worse than that? Other than Leon Draisaitl for the opposing teams. So this power play of the Oilers is challenging the unders. And what I'd love to see is that kind of domination in the playoffs, which we might actually get one year with the Oilers' power play in the playoffs actually being a major deciding factors in playoff series, as it was for the New York Islanders throughout that era when they won 4 Stanley Cups. So we'll see. Well, Bruce, let's leave it there. Thanks for talking.
Yep. On to Monday in Arizona, Tuesday back in Vegas, Thursday and where are they playing Thursday? Oh, they're back here on Thursday playing the Kings. So this is a real rugged stretch of we'll call them placement games. I think first is probably gone now, but they're still playing hard for position and sort of to establish things. So some really interesting games coming up in the next few days.
Indeed. Well, that's it for tonight. Thanks for talking.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.